Now, Washington mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
737 on WMAL. Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson with you.
Over the last 3 years as President of the United States, I have kept my commitments to the State of Israel. At every crucial juncture, at every fork in the road, we have been there for Israel every single time.
All right, that was President Obama yesterday at AIPAC here in D.C. A lot of people are debating that statement from the president this morning. Caroline Glick joins us now, columnist, deputy managing editor for the Jerusalem Post, who is in Israel this morning. Good morning, Carolyn. Your reaction to the president's speech yesterday?
Well, I have to say that the speech itself was the first speech that the president gave since he ran for president last time, where he didn't pick a fight with Israel. So in that sense, it was an improvement over his more recent speeches as president. But it actually was not, when you look at the substance of what he said in his remarks, it was not a friendly speech towards Israel at all.
Talk to me a little about the difference between American Jews who were in attendance at this speech and the Jews who live inside Israel and how they view the situation.
Well, obviously, it's a very personal thing for Israelis because Iran's nuclear program is openly, the Iranians have openly called for Israel to be destroyed, and they're building the means to destroy the country. So I take that personally when people call for the destruction of Israel and for the annihilation of the Israeli people, the Jewish people here, which of course includes my family. So, I guess in that sense there's a difference in perspective, but I think that American Jews as a whole also consider this to be an existential threat and are aware of that. It's just a question of whether they're aware of just what a negative role President Obama personally has played in increasing this threat to the point where we're really at the threshold of an Iranian nuclear bomb, and time is extremely limited from Israel's perspective for preventing the mullahs from acquiring the means to carry out their stated aim of annihilating Israel.
Yeah, more on that in just a moment, but I mean, from a political standpoint, he was fairly warmly received during this speech, although we hear a lot about the chilly relationship between the Jewish community and the Obama administration. It didn't seem that way.
Well, I mean, first of all, you have to recognize that much of his speech went without applause, and many of his applause lines went without any applause. So I think that there is definitely, and that is something that we couldn't have possibly imagined happening a year ago even. So I think that there has been a chilling of American support or a decrease in American Jewish support for Obama over the past 3 years since he became president. And we see that also in the response that he got from the crowd at AIPAC.
All right, I want to pick up on two quotes from the speech. The president said, "I have said that when it comes to preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, I will take no options off the table. I have a policy to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, not a policy of containment." And then he also said, "Make no mistake, we will do what it takes to preserve Israel's military edge, because Israel must always have the ability to defend itself by itself against any threat." Was that a green light for Israel to go ahead and do what it has to do to protect itself against Iran?
I don't think so, because he also said that Israel has to allow sanctions to work. Of course, the president has been doing everything that he can to minimize the sanctions that are being implemented against Iran, and really been dragged kicking and screaming by Congress in Europe to more firm sanctions against Iran in recent months. But the reason why it's so alarming from an Israeli perspective, what Obama said yesterday, is because of the difference in timelines. The Americans are talking about Iran building a nuclear bomb. Israel can't allow Iran to get to that point, because from Israel's perspective, the question is, when is Iran's nuclear program going to be impermeable to an Israeli military strike? And the American timeline is talking about when is Iran going to develop a nuclear bomb. And these are two very, very different things. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, Iran is already moving highly enriched nuclear fuel to its impregnable, from an Israeli perspective, nuclear facility outside of Qom. And the Americans claim that they can attack that installation, but Israel reportedly doesn't have the means to do so. So from Israel's perspective, the minute that Iran has sufficient nuclear fuel and centrifuges operating at that facility that it cannot attack, then Israel essentially can't do anything about Iran, and Iran will have to be considered a nuclear power from Israel's perspective. And so when the Americans say, and the timeline for that happening is very, very short, very short, probably a matter of weeks.
Benjamin Netanyahu. Go ahead.
But it's just that the Americans claim that they have the ability to attack the site. So if Israel stands back and follows what Obama is saying and waits for the sanctions, which, again, he's not implementing, to have an impact on Iran's nuclear aspirations, then Israel will be effectively at Obama's mercy. He can decide whether or not Iran's nuclear installations will be taken out or not, and Israel will be completely dependent on an American security guarantee for its own survival, and that's something that I don't think that even Israel could give even the most friendly American president, and certainly not Obama.
All right, now Benjamin Netanyahu goes to the White House today. Will he make nice, or will he let it be known that the relationship is a bit frosty?
Well, you know, when Netanyahu was in Ottawa meeting with Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper during Obama's speech at AIPAC, and he made clear both at his joint press conference with Harper on Friday and then again in response to Obama's speech that what Israel is concerned about is right now that Obama wants to start negotiating with Iran within a month, and that from Israel's perspective, the United States has to put down some serious preconditions for such talks involving, among other things, a complete cessation of uranium enrichment and a transfer of all enriched, low-enriched, and more highly enriched uranium material out of Iran before such talks can take place. So I think, you know, Israel is trying very, very hard to get Obama to agree to certain benchmarks that would limit his ability to ignore Iran's progress towards a nuclear bomb. And Obama has rather deftly gotten away from setting any benchmarks, much to the chagrin of the U.S. Congress, and so really has acted as a primary protector of Iran's nuclear program.
All right, quick question for you before we let you go. Is there support in Israel for military action to make sure that Iran doesn't get a bomb?
It's not a political question of support or lack of support. There is an expectation of the Israeli people, of our government, whether it's led by Netanyahu or anybody else, that the government of Israel will never allow an existential threat, a threat of another Holocaust, a threat of annihilation to take hold, that we expect our government to do everything it has to do in order to ensure the survival of the state of Israel, and therefore we expect that Israel will attack Iran.
Okay. Carolyn, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks very much.
Thanks,
We appreciate it.